Welcome to our session on the vision of the industry, circular economy and the impact of COVID-19. We have with us today Caroline Ciuciu, the CEO of EPCA, Chet Thomson, the President and CEO of AFPM, Edison Terra, President of APLA, and Adbulwahab Sadoun, the General Secretary of GPCA. Our questions relate to the particular situation in the regions of all of your countries regarding sustainability, circular economy and plastics waste. So what are the specific issues on those topics in your individual country?
Good morning, Lyn, and good morning to everyone joining us today. Let me first thank APLA for inviting me to this interactive session with the three other leaders of the petrochemical regional organizations. So as highlighted at the EPCA virtual annual meeting, which was held early October, just a month ago, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated and intensified key trends that existed before in green transformation in particular. And in Europe, green transformation is very high on the agenda of the European Union institutions with the so-called European Green Deal. So the EU aims for Europe is really to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050. It will mobilize at least 1 trillion euros of investments over the course of the next 10 years. The new financial instruments include the Just Transition Mechanism, offering targeted support to regions and sectors most affected by the transition to green economy, and InvestEU, stimulating green investments with support from the European investment banks. In addition to this, as you may know, the EU leaders agreed also on a set of financial measures to bolster the post-pandemic recovery, including 750 billion euros raised for the first time jointly on the financial markets. This instrument, which is called Next Generation EU, will channel more money into the Green Deal. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also insisted that the EU expects private sector actors to match these public financing efforts. But beyond these huge figures, the Green Deal means a big wave of new regulations as well. And the EU legislative plan for next year only mention new strategies for agriculture, for hydrogen, for building renovation, for offshore wind energy, methane pollution, sustainable investments. And at the heart of all of it is the Commission's Circular Economy Action Plan for a cleaner and more competitive Europe. It's a push for sustainable consumption and keeping resources in the economy for as long as possible. So these European Union ambitious sustainability targets, including the recent plan to further increase the EU's 2030 emissions reduction target, will really test our ability to redefine the way we operate and the leadership of our sector in the post-pandemic world. Of course, customers and the general public expectations contribute to making sustainability a clear systemic shift as well. So what is important to really highlight is the commitment of the petrochemical industry to the EU Green Deal transformation, to the EU Green Transformation Agenda. And this commitment was really clearly and strongly expressed at the EPCA annual meeting in October this year. And quoting Martin Bruder-Müller, who is the chairman of the board and chief technology officer of BASF, taking an active stance in the coming transformation process is the only viable option to be part of the solution. And he added that those who will defend the status quo will be out of business over time without the social license to operate. So what is the situation? Well, as a matter of fact, numerous industry efforts are already in the works to reduce CO2 emissions, boost chemical recycling, and accompany behavioral changes implied by changing lifestyle to transition to a more circular, low-carbon economy. And the discussions at the EPCA virtual meeting last month are really focused on a series of paths for further decisive actions. These include low-carbon technology for further carbon reduction, carbon management strategies for the remaining carbon intensity, such as the carbon capture and storage technologies, including the development of offshore storage initiatives. Discussions also took place on the transparency of CO2 emissions data along the value chain with customers, suppliers, and other players along the value chain, and of course, chemical recycling. And there are multiple research and pilot projects ongoing on this new recycling path in Europe and other parts of the world. As I said, really, the industry is determined to take an active stance in this transformation process. Such paradigm shift will certainly require greater collaboration within our sector, along the value chain and with regulators. Several captains of our industry called on the European political leaders and regulators to develop policy frameworks to power this transformation. As highlighted by Thomas Caspary, who is the Executive Vice President of Shell Chemicals, currently only 15% of waste collected in the EU ends up coming back into the plastic market. And to accelerate on this move to greater circularity, Thomas Caspary urged the EU regulators to recognize and intensify advanced chemical recycling in the same way as traditional recycling. The green transformation also applied to logistics and supply chain. The need to readjust the current linear approach of the supply chain to a more circular one was also clearly identified last month at the EPCA virtual meeting. There was a clear call to drive a change to renewable resources and to adapt and implement the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle in the logistics and supply chain. The environment dimension of the sustainability agenda, we also sense a clear determination to contribute to make our societies more inclusive and cohesive. Sourcing and nurturing the talents, creativity and inventiveness needed to help our business grasp the opportunity to build a sustainable and shock-proof, thriving industry is even more critical in such a seismic environment change.
Well, let me start off, Lyn. Thank you for that question, and good morning, everyone. And again, let me start off by first thanking APLA, Emmanuel, and the rest of the APLA team for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to participate in the conference. I was hoping to be with you live. Fingers crossed that we'll be able to do it next year. But in any event, it certainly is a great honor for me to be here with you this morning and to share some of my thoughts on some timely topics. So, but the question as it relates to the importance of sustainability and circular economy, look, these are incredibly important issues to AFPM's members, to the petrochemical industry generally. It's certainly a really, really important issue to those of us in the United States and those who just voted in last week's election. You can see that environmental and sustainability issues are incredibly important to the U.S. electorate. So let me just start off by saying, a couple things about this. One, again, I can speak on behalf of my members to tell you what great importance that we put on sustainability. We know that we have to continue to produce and provide the products that humanity needs to thrive. And those products include petrochemicals. And we have a growing global population, and we need to produce these products because they're so critical. But we also know that in order to do so, we need to produce our products in the most sustainable way possible. And that means we have to find ways to address climate change. It means we have to continue to become more efficient. And it means we're going to have to tackle the plastic waste issue that exists today. And I can tell you that, again, my members are committed to doing that. AFPM is committed to doing that. And so, you know, we're really positive about the progress we can make on this issue going forward. And so here in the United States, the issues are probably very similar to where they are at other places in the country, where, you know, folks want to help. So we're trying to help on a variety of levels. First, you know, the United States, there's lots of discussions about legislation that can be done to promote better waste management and recycling. And we at AFPM are engaged all the time on those issues. You know, we approach the discussion, again, by making it clear that we want to help, but that those types of legislation and policies need to make sense. They need to take into account life cycle. They need to be science-based. They need to promote innovation. And they also need to recognize the value of our products. So there has been a number of things, legislation over the last couple of years that AFPM has supported, that our members have supported, that move us in the right direction. The other thing that we're going to continue to do is innovate. And I'm just incredibly proud of my members when I look across, you know, all the things that they're doing, and they're seeing the incredible innovations to try to promote the circular economy. We're seeing breakthroughs all the time, and I'm quite optimistic that down the road we're going to be able to dramatically increase recycling to the point that, you know, really helps out the plastic waste issues. And then certainly our members are actively involved in a number of you know, initiatives and organizations and programs like the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. Our members have contributed resources and expertise to that cause, and the Alliance has over 55 projects all across the globe designed to try to, you know, address the, you know, the plastic waste issues. We know that certain things don't work, Lynn. For example, we're not supportive of bans of plastic and single-use products. We don't think that's the solution. We think the solution is better waste management, better recycling, and with those measures, we think we can get our arms around this really critically important issue.
In regard to the sustainability and the circular economy, both are embedded in the national vision of the GCC countries, and subsequently, this is cascaded to the vision and the strategies for the petrochemical producer in the Arabian Gulf region. In fact, you know, going back to the early petrochemical production in our region, the first wave of petrochemical projects were established as joint ventures with leading global chemical players. And since then, the issue of the environmental management, safety, and health of employees is in the DNA of the industry. So we did not, in fact, there had been a continuous improvement of the performance of the industry in the environmental management, safety and health. And as a GPCA, we do issue regularly an annual report, the performance metric reports, which highlight the performance of our member companies with regard to the key indicators related to the responsible care, and benchmark them on a regional and global level. And the results are outstanding. I give you some, you know, glimpse of the performance of our industry that had been captured in the 2019 report. The hazardous and non-hazardous waste in 2019 had been reduced by 13 to 39% respectively. over the past 6 years, 2013 to 2019, the carbon dioxide intensity had increased only slightly, 1.7%, despite the fact that the industry had been continuing its growth trajectory, growing by a compounded annual growth rate of 7.8%. Similarly, there had been an excellent performance with regard to the greenhouse gases reduction, the NOx during that period. The NOx had been reduced by 35%, the SOx by 39%. Likewise, the industry had been also investing in projects to minimize the wastewater discharge, and the achievement in this regard over the past 6 years was 40% improvement in the water discharge per ton compared with the 2013 benchmark. So overall, this gives you a flavor of what the circular economy and the environmental management and sustainability means, to our member companies. And the circular economy had, as a GPCA, we've been advocating, the circular economy to our stakeholders, to the policy makers, and we are working, in tandem with them. As we see the value of adopting the circular economy within our region, especially when it comes to the plastic, and the circular economy, in essence, is calling for eliminating the waste and look at it as a valuable resource, to be captured. So we've been actively, advocating the concept. We've been also walking the talk by, several initiatives and programs which call for the waste reduction, the 4 Rs in the plastic, and the waste management, and the change of the behavior, which had been also the key, contributor to the negative perception of plastic in our region and elsewhere. Unfortunately, the waste management infrastructure and regulatory framework is not yet well developed in our region, but this is an area where we are actively involved and actively advocating, the need to come up with the right regulatory framework, to tackle this issue. Some numbers that we have indicate that the plastic waste represent 15% of the solid municipality waste, and only 5% of this waste is recovered. The rest is end up in landfill, which is a total waste. So we're advocating even a zero landfill target, but this is something, as we speak, is work in progress, and we're in our events, in our publications, highlighting and even recognizing the companies who are doing quite well in the recycling of plastics.
Okay, thank you, Lyn. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. I think the problems we have in our region in Latin America is very similar to what is happening in other parts of the world. I would say most of our countries, we have not only an issue of solid waste management, but also a sanitation issue that has to be addressed. But I would say that regarding circular economy and what we need to evolve, basically, there are two major issues. One is waste management, and I would say the industry has to develop with the whole supply chain a way to move plastic waste on a hierarchy up on a waste hierarchy, which means that would create value for the waste, and that would enable it to be collected and properly reuse it, reintroduce it into the economy. And at the same time, I would say the second major issue is really to promote new habits, new behaviors that will be addressed through, I would say, education, not only of the youngers, but also, I would say, of society in general, in order to enhance aspects of, I would say, responsible consumption, which means people to be more aware of what they do and the way they do regarding their behaviors.
What is your organisation doing to address the issues of plastics waste at home and globally?
Well, as highlighted at the EPCA virtual meeting in October, driving the plastic circular economy is a key element of the business growth strategy of key players within the petrochemical industry. Numerous member companies of EPCA are actively engaged in addressing the plastics waste challenge in Europe as well as globally, illustrating the willingness of this industry segment to be part of the solution. Companies, for example, actively develop and support innovative technologies. And there are many examples of research projects and pilot projects of chemical recycling in particular. Companies have already also started producing chemicals from plastic waste-derived feedstock, with plans to gradually increase global capacity across their major operational regions in Europe and other parts of the world. Collaboration along the value chain is really critical to bring these new technologies to the market. And for example, collaboration with companies who collect and transform plastic waste is critical to scale solutions to industrial and profitable quantities. Many EPCA members are also actively engaged into global partnerships to enhance waste management and recycling infrastructure, as well as education and engagement and cleanup programs. The Alliance to End Plastic Waste, which was launched in January 2019, is a very good example of these dynamics. BASF, Dow, ExxonMobil, SABIC, Shell, Total, who are members of EPCA, are also members of this alliance.
Okay, on the second question with regard to the programs and the initiative that had been led by the GPCA, we've done quite well. We've been working on several programs and initiatives to shift the perception about the post-use plastic from being considered as a waste to being considered as a valuable resource. And we've been actively communicating, those messages, the benefits of the plastic and the circular economy for the plastic producers, as well as the key stakeholders in our region, in our events and our publications. We've also collaborated with regional policymakers, regulators, brand owners, waste companies, managers, as well as NGOs in those campaigns, to enhance the collection and the recycling rates, which is still very modest in our region, as well as developing the extended producer responsibility schemes. In fact, recently we've been part of launching an association, a new association. GPCA became a founding member of this association, which is the Circular Packaging Association, that focus precisely on endorsing such campaigns in terms of the policies, regulation, as well as initiatives related to enhancing the level of learning with the benefits of the plastics. So we've been working very closely with all the plastic producers on the standard, developing the standard for the plastic recyclates. And recently we've adopted the Operation Sweep program for our members and the value chain partner to reduce the pellets and flakes in the marine. We have also been actively involved in the community awareness campaign, highlighting the benefit of plastic through our waste-free environment campaign, which we have been running, since 2013 throughout the region and even beyond, wherever our member companies have some operation. They have been part of, the campaign within their local communities. On a global level, we've been also active, participating in the ICCA Plastic Leadership Group. SABIC is co-chair of this group, and we have been founding members of the World Plastic Council. We've been working closely with our also colleagues from the ACC, the Plastic Europe, and the Global Plastic Alliance, showcasing the benefit of plastic and what needs to be done to address the issue of plastic waste in the marine. So overall, there had been several initiatives taken by the GPCA, championed by the GPCA, and to showcase the immense effort made by the member companies and the association to preventing the leakage of plastic into marine and the environment. Thank you.
Well, Lyn, I think a lot has been done, but there's still a lot to do. And well, as Braskem, I would say we have been talking about sustainability since the beginning of our history. We have started that in 2002. And after that, with the renewables and the green polymers in 2010, and more recently with all the issues on recycling and adopting, I would say, the newest concepts of circular economy. We have many examples. So I talked about the source, the renewable source and feedstock. So the sugarcane ethanol polyethylene is a remarkable, is a great milestone in our case, in case of Braskem. But I would say for the last 3 years, we have incorporated circular economy concepts in our strategy. So we have been talking about mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, and have been partnering with the whole chain in order to develop that. Also working with external research centers, the academia, and many others, and a lot of progress has been done so far. And I think that this is, I would say, one of the things that makes me more optimistic about it, because on recycling itself and on designing for environment, I think the efforts of the industry are very recent. So, and we have been doing a lot of progress in a very short period of time. So I think that there are great things to be done yet, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to make a lot of progress working together with the whole plastic chain, not only the petrochemical companies, not only the converters, but mainly the brand owners and the end users together. In some cases, I think we have to go back to the desk and redesign some products, redesign packagings in order to make them more appropriated for recycling. Today, we try to recycle things that were not conceived to be recycled. I would also like to highlight some initiatives on APLA that we have started in 2018. I would emphasize APLA Labs, which is an initiative mainly targeting, I would say, children and teenagers in order to promote 3D printing, robotics, chemistry, and sustainability concepts. in order for them to be aware of the potential that we have to develop that and to create some kind of attractiveness for them to join this effort together with our industry. We have been we have helped already 15 institutions in Argentina, Chile, and Mexico, and we have touched more than 400 children. So I think it's a small effort compared to the needs of the region, but I think it's a very important motivation effort for the company, other companies and other entities to join us.
How has COVID affected your members' business? There's a negative effect on the economy and in demand, but for some chemical products, there's been positive effects in terms of demand for healthcare and medical applications, plus single-use packaging and others. Has this changed the strategy of your members in any way?
The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly shown the resilience and the reliability of the petrochemical sector. Our sector endured in a remarkable way and has actively contributed to the battle against the COVID-19 and to the mitigation of its effects on our health system and society. Within days, manufacturers reorganized to meet the exponential rise in demand for packaging plastics, hygiene products, disinfectants, and others. Many even repurposed production lines to start producing sanitizers to donate to healthcare facilities and essential services. Logistics service providers also did their utmost to reorganize in an agile way and keep the supply chain up and running. They had to deal with restriction of movement, discontinued availability of products, changing customers' behaviors, and the imminent threat to the health of their workers in the field and on the shore. As the second wave of the pandemic is now upon us in Europe, the industry will continue to play an active role in fighting the pandemic and mitigating its effects on our health system and society. From what we see today, the pandemic will not have an impact on the long-term economics fundamentals. All industry leaders agreed that regulatory and consumer demand for more low-carbon circular products will only increase. The petrochemical industry has the capability and know-how to deliver on the challenges we are facing short to mid-term. The political framework needs to enable the economic implementation of our innovative technologies and solutions to recover from the crisis. EPCA as an organization also had to adapt to the new normal. The crisis has tested the strengths and the organizations and found them to be healthy. In April this year, EPCA Board of Directors made a smart decision to move this year's annual meeting to a virtual format. Our first virtual annual meeting, held early October, has definitely attracted our community's interest, with more than 1,000 registered delegates from 40 different countries. With a record-breaking number of participants in the virtual business sessions from all over the globe this October, we saw that our community's appetite for inspiration, insights, and ideas has never been bigger. EPCA will continue adapting its strategy to this new normal and developing its value propositions for the benefits of its wide community. We will adjust further our annual meeting to the new reality next year, and we have already started reflecting on what we could offer to our delegates. We are also working on growing our programs and network to build an organization able to meet the changing needs of our members in answering the political, economic, and social challenges of our time. To conclude, let me thank the EPCA board members and the EPCA staff for their great support and continued commitment to developing the activities of EPCA and adapting to this new normal.
Well, again, Lyn, thank you for the question. Certainly, COVID has impacted everything, right? When I agreed to speak at this conference, many months ago, we certainly weren't anticipating COVID and the shutdown of the global economy. So it has been hard. It's been hard on everybody. It's been, hard on our members. I would say, as far as the direct impact, it depends. It depends upon exactly what areas in the supply chain you're in. Certainly, some parts of the industry have been hit harder than others. The petrochemical side of the house in, say, transportation or aromatics, they have been hit quite hard. There's been unprecedented demand destruction, and it's been quite difficult. There are some parts of the industry, however, that initially, were hit hard, but have been able to rally and rise to the occasion, if you will. And those, around the PPE, the personal protection equipment and the packaging, so the olefins, I mean, those have been, that market has actually rebounded quite well. And I've seen some estimates that, we might actually do better this year than last, given the massive demand for those types of products. So, all in all, I would say this was a situation certainly we would have hoped not to have happened, and we need to get past this. But let me also say, Lyn, something about this that I've been very proud of, and that's how our members, AFPM's members, and I'm assuming it's the same with APLA members, have really risen to this challenge, and we've stepped up, and we've helped the country when we needed help, and we produced the products that need to be produced to help communities navigate COVID, and I'm really excited about that. And again, I think we're ready to continue to move forward. And when we finally get this COVID thing behind us, or at least more behind us, we're going to be well situated to continue to meet the global demands. And if you look out over many years, the demands for petrochemical continues to increase. We're expecting over 5 billion people to be added to the planet in the coming years. And again, they're going to need our products to continue to thrive, and we're going to be well positioned to provide those products.
Okay, on the second question with regard to the programs and the initiative that had been led by the GPCA, we've done quite well. We've been working on several programs and initiatives to shift the perception about the post-use plastic from being considered as a waste to being considered as a valuable resource. And we've been actively communicating, those messages, the benefits of the plastic and the circular economy for the plastic producers, as well as the key stakeholders in our region, in our events and our publications. We've also collaborated with regional policymakers, regulators, brand owners, waste companies, managers, as well as NGOs in those campaigns, to enhance the collection and the recycling rates, which is still very modest in our region, as well as developing the extended producer responsibility schemes. In fact, recently we've been part of launching an association, a new association. GPCA became a founding member of this association, which is the Circular Packaging Association, that focus precisely on endorsing such campaigns in terms of the policies regulation, as well as initiatives related to enhancing the level of learning with the benefits of the plastics. So we've been working very closely with all the plastic producers on the developing the standard for the plastic recyclates. And recently we've adopted the Operation Sweep program for our members and the value chain partner to reduce the pellets and flakes in the marine. We have also been actively involved in the community awareness campaign, highlighting the benefit of plastic through our waste-free environment campaign, which we have been running, since 2013 throughout the region and even beyond, wherever our member companies have some operation. They have been part of, the campaign within their local communities. On a global level, we've been also active, participating in the ICCA Plastic Leadership Group. SABIC is co-chair of this group, and we have been founding members of the World Plastic Council. We've been working closely with our also colleagues from the ACC, the Plastic Europe, and the Global Plastic Alliance, showcasing the benefit of plastic and what needs to be done to address the issue of plastic waste in the marine. So overall, there had been several initiatives taken by the GPCA, championed by the GPCA, and to showcase the immense effort made by the member companies and the association to preventing the leakage of plastic into marine and the environment. Thank you.
Lyn, I don't think changing the strategy is the right approach, but I would tell you, well, I think what happened in Latin America was similar to other regions. In the very beginning, there was a completely change of behavior in terms of consumption, and it has affected most of the industries. In our case, it was not different. We saw that on durable goods, I would say consumption went down to zero. So automotive industry, white appliances and things that demand, I would say, more capital. People were much more concerned with what would happen to them in the short term. On the other hand, on the consumption side, there was a first move of people trying to stock in themselves with food, basically, and a remarkable increase in consumption of home care and personal care items, right? I mean, people became much more careful with health issues, and so home cleaning and home care was something that showed. So, for instance, when we're talking about packaging for those kind of goods, there was a boom in consumption. And of course, a very relevant consumption for plastics, mainly polypropylene, that is used on the masks, right? On the no-woven masks and the aprons and several other items. After a while, I think things have reestablished, and I would say that July onwards, we have seen things coming back quite to normal. One thing that for me on COVID, and then I would say during this time, most of the companies were very helpful. And I think this was a very nice feeling for all of us to see how people helped each other, how the companies acted in order to change their production system in order to produce goods and to support the fight against the pandemic. So, for instance, talking about Braskem, we had several initiatives with our customers to produce goods that would help on fighting COVID. APLA had the same. I would say we have donated several, I would say, healthcare devices or healthcare products or like masks, aprons, sanitary goods in countries like Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Mexico. So I think this was a very nice part of the fight against COVID. But one thing that calls the attention, and it's completely different from the last crisis we had, let's say in 2008, 2009, that was much more a financial crisis instead of a health crisis, is that at the time, all the initiatives that were going on regarding sustainability, they were kind of put aside because companies don't have the money. And at this time, what we noticed is that all the sustainability initiatives, they were boosted by this crisis, which means that people are much more aware, much more concerned, and companies are speeding up their sustainability initiatives. I think this is a major change. So when we talk about ESG and all the initiatives regarding sustainability, I think companies will be demanded by society to have a much more relevant role and really to be active in that sense. I think this for me is the most remarkable aspect, and I would say the learning from this crisis.
So turning to energy transition, will this drive a more urgent move towards biofuels, and will that impact Latin America? Will hydrocarbon reserves be impacted, e.g. the pre-salt exploration in Brazil?
Tough one, Lyn. I think this has so many variables that could impact that, but definitely things are changing, right? Brazil has, talking specifically about Brazil, biofuels have a relevant presence, I would say, at least for the last 40 years with ethanol from sugarcane, right? Even though I would say consumption on hydrocarbon coming from oil is also something where the demand has increased. So I think there will be a balance. Transition will be there. The region has its reserves, and you have, and I'm sure that both Argentina and Brazil will still try to find and to use these as a great source of revenues and also of development for both countries. And I think that if there is a major impact from this transition, then our industry, the petrochemical industry, we may have a role that will be even more relevant, right? Of course, that we also will face the challenges of circular economy and sustainability. But I think that even with the transition, there is a very positive outcome for our region, for Latin America, in the next.
Now the world's getting into a bigger debt position resulting from the fight to keep economies live at this time of COVID. Will the issue of debt in Latin America take on a different perspective?
Well, Lyn, I think this is a challenge where Latin America has been struggling for a while, but at the same time has been living with it, right? I think as we evolve and as we consider sustainability aspects as something that is more and more relevant, and taking care of the environment as something that is more relevant as well, I would say Latin America has the conditions to evolve. Of course, a lot of investment is needed. But I think at the same time, the region has the resources to make it happen. So I would say if we have the right approach from all the stakeholders, and that's not only a government issue, but it's also a problem of our societies, our companies, our academia. If we put all these efforts together in order to develop the region, we have the conditions to put our economies back on track. I think we have the means, we have natural resources, technologies there to improve things. It's true that I used to say that sometimes what we are seeing in terms of exponential technology maybe in a very short period of time, some regions may become much ahead of others. So this is, I would say, this is a concern that Latin America has to take into account. But I think the means are there. Of course, partnering with other more developed countries and more developed technologies will be important. So let's see it. I think this is a great question, and this is something that should be on the background for everything we do.
Well, let me, as a conclusion, thank you, APLA as an organization and the APLA team for inviting me today to participate in this virtual session. I wish all the delegates who are joining us this morning a very inspiring and insightful series of sessions. I do look forward to seeing many of you either virtually or in person in the coming months and in 2021. All the best to all of you from EPCA in Brussels. Bye-bye for now.
All right, well, let me just say, again, on behalf of AFPM, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to participate. APLA has been a great sister organization with AFPM for many years, and Manuel and his whole team, they do a fantastic job. Some folks right now are a little bit gloomy, but I think there's lots for us as an industry to be optimistic about. We make great products. We make products that make the world a better place, and we're going to be there for many years to come to deliver those products. So again, thanks for coming. I hope the rest of your conference is fantastic, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully face-to-face next year and maybe at a couple AFPM events as well.
Thank you, Lyn. Thank you very much for the questions, and thank all my colleagues for this session.